The lake glistened beautifully in the early morning, an oasis of peace and tranquility. Silence. Everywhere was deathly silent. Not an insect stirred on the lake. It was empty, devoid of all life. It seemed a sin for such a place of immense beauty to repel life. A small insect scurried from the bank towards the water. It was rumoured that whoever drank from the lake would instantly die. The insect paddled onto the surface. For a second it seemed to be confused, as if in awe of the lake's silvery beauty. It extended its jaws, took a drink, and froze in shock. Suddenly it shimmered a pale golden grey in the early morning mist, and with a low hiss vanished out of existence. Varisht watched all this with a keen fascination. His mind studied every detail of the insect's demise. Damn! How long had he worked on this enigma? 100 years? How many times had he nearly gone insane with frustration and almost plunged into the icy blue water? How many times? Too many, and yet he hadn't. Something had warned him. Some deep instinct had stopped him, or that was what he liked to think. He didn't like to think of himself as a coward. After all, he didn't believe the rumours. The insects hadn't really died. The way it vanished seemed to suggest something else. It had been transported, but to where? If he were to leap into the lake and find himself transported to somewhere he couldn't hope to survive, then that was almost as good as the lake killing him itself. No, he wouldn't risk it. He needed more information before he would risk his life in such a manner. He hadn't got to the age of 121 by being reckless. Out of all the people born around his era, he was the only one left. All had died, some of them untimely deaths, and some of old age, as they didn't possess the knowledge and necessary abilities to extend their own life. They would have called it magic, but Varisht knew there wasn't any magic, just knowledge. Only people who didn't understand the knowledge called it magic. He could have saved them, his old friends. He could have extended their lives for them. He could have tried to teach them how to harness the power of the environment. In fact, he had even tried to teach a few, but in the end all had failed. His quota up, he wasn't allowed to teach more than 2 every 100 years, just as he wasn't allowed to save his old friends. Instead, he had to watch them wither and die, when all the time he had the power to help them. He hadn't been allowed. To help them would have gone against the rule of the sorceress, and those who offended the sorceress didn't live very long after it. Tamish, his old teacher, had proved this point. He had been ritually executed. Even now, just examining this lake was enough to have Varisht killed. But as long as he didn't use any magic, the sorceress shouldn't realize. Like all powerful leaders and dictators, she had a great skill. She was incredibly in tune with the elemental winds and any magic used anywhere. Absolutely anywhere on the planet would eventually wind its way back to her, and if it had been used against her rules, she would act with a power so ferocious that it would destroy whole villages. But Varisht thought as long as he didn't use any magic, he was safe. He couldn't have known how wrong he was. A crossbow bolt struck a tree on his left. Swish, swish. More crossbow bolts flew at him from every direction. The sorceress's hounds had found him, and now he was to pay for breaking her laws. He lay flat on the ground as the bolts continued to whiz over his head. He was pinned down and couldn't move. He heard footsteps as the hounds closed in. In seconds they would be upon him, flaying his body with their short swords unless he acted. But there was no way out. To move would mean to be cut down by another bolt.